So hi guys, welcome to this PR Hour live training. Today we're talking about how to work successfully with PRs and freelancers. And this is going to be interesting because we're getting more and more of our members now within Media Matchmaker, hi Janetta, who want to access and connect to freelancers and PRs because they love what we offer as a service for Media Matchmaker. They love they can tap into it, but they still just need that guidance, or they just haven't got the time. So we've got a couple of wonderful ladies with us that have got the most amazing expertise that are going to share kind of their experience, how you can kind of look at and how you can work with a freelancer, what to look out for. And they're going to give you as many tips as they can, but they're also going to showcase themselves so that if you want to work with them, then you can connect with them. So this is a great chance that you can kind of ask any questions on how freelancers work, and then they can obviously give you some guidance as well from a story point of view and from an expertise point of view. So we're recording this session. The way that this works, you're either watching this on the replay or you're with us on the live. There might be some people come in as we go along, and then we'll let them in. So we'll just do a very quick introduction. So we've got two of our members, Hilary and Janetta. Hello, welcome to you both, ladies. Hope you're well, lovely ladies. And then we'll go into starting with our freelance PRs, which is Jane and Sarah. I'll go into the order who came on first, which was Jane. Thank you for being the first girl on the session. Jane, perhaps you can introduce and tell us a little bit about yourself so we can showcase you here. Tell us, you know, how long you've been working in kind of the media freelance journalist from a journalistic point of view or as a PR point of view, and then we can dive a bit more then into what kind of services you offer and what kind of sector you work in.
Sure. Yeah, great. Well, nice to meet you. So my name is Jane Griffin. I run a consultancy, PR consultancy called Positive Story. I've got 17 years experience in journalism and PR, and I started my career as a TV reporter, working for BBC and ITV News. And yes, and then I went into PR, worked in the rail sector for a long time, working for companies like Eurotunnel and Railtrack, and then engineering and construction. And I currently work with startups, tech startups, different sectors like property, investment, infrastructure, kind of industrial companies mainly, but a bit of everything. Obviously I do PR, and so the services I provide include PR strategy, media relations, thought leadership, crisis communication when, you know, something bad happens, you need some help with that, and media training. And I'm based in East Sussex.
Fantastic. So what we'll be able to do is you're either watching this as a showcase interview. If you are, you can also click through to the full interview that you'll be able to access this here. So we'll dive into how you can work with our freelance PRs, and you'll find more about how you can connect with Jane as well. So thank you for that, Jane. 27 years. Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's brilliant. So
you feel old.
Well, we're all getting older, aren't we? You've seen how the media has changed so much, haven't you? And it really has changed. And I think what is wonderful now is to have access to some of, to like you ladies and the PRs that have this immense experience, because you've seen it from all ways around, which is what our members will want to kind of dive into. So thanks for that, Jane, but we're going to get into loads more and find out loads more about you. I'm going to move on now to Sarah Lloyd. Sarah, can you introduce yourself and tell us, you know, a little bit about your backstory, where you started off and how you help people and perhaps what sectors you work in?
Yeah, of course. So I've not been a couple of years. So I've been in the business 25 years. It still makes you feel old, doesn't it? It's like half your life. So I've been in corporate communications, PR, journalism for 25 years. I started my career in, so I'm based in Farnborough. I started my career at BAE, so in defence and aerospace. Jumped from there to Ernst & Young. I've worked for Ernst & Young for about a year, and then I moved into agency side. So I was with the agency for quite a long time. So I got to get to know, it was around the kind of the .com burst, or boom and bust, if you like. So I worked a lot with tech startups then. Then I shifted to consumer technology. So I was hanging out in consumer tech for quite a while, mobile phones, TVs, washing machines, you name it. And then shifted into kind of deep tech. My last technology role was at Polycom, which is a video conferencing company, funnily enough. So I left there 5 years ago. I was made redundant, and I took that as a real turning point, because I wanted to find a better balance for my family. So I set up my own business. So my business is called Indigo Soul PR. And I've made the massive leap from tech to wellness, health, spirituality, because that's my passion. So I work with a lot of women coaches, authors. I've worked with a real life fairy. I guess my focus is getting people, sharing people's real life stories in a way that feels good. I have a membership, and I also offer all the traditional things. So PR strategy, press release issue, media relations, thought leadership, and media training. So yeah, I guess we're kind of cut from this similar cloth, but I've made this leap into that spiritual space because that's what I love to do now. So I think that's what's lovely, to be the master of your own.
Fantastic. And obviously, if you're watching this as a showcase interview for Sarah, you can also see the link and see the full interview here. So you can dive in and find out how you can work with her and kind of ask what questions you need to ask and how it works with freelance and PRs, because it is slightly different to agencies, or we'll find out, is it different to agencies as we go along. So thank you, ladies. We did also have one other lady that was due to join us that was from different sectors as well, but she's in a different time zone. It may have been that miscommunication, she's not sure, or something may have come up from a deadline point of view, but we can showcase her later as well. We'll put the link if she does turn up later. So let's dive in. So this session is obviously so you can get to understand how to work with freelance and PRs, and actually what the benefits to you are, and how it can save you time, but most importantly how it can actually get you featured, because they're there to help you. They're there to help you move your business forward. And at Media Matchmaker, we work with PRs. We're not in competition, we complement each other. There's plenty of work for everybody. It's one of those things that you come to Media Matchmaker because you want to raise your profile, get credibility, and do your own PR. But some of you are happy to kind of outsource it and happy to kind of connect with someone that you connect with. And I think a lot of this is about this, especially as women. I'm sure you guys that are watching this too, we connect on a kind of emotional balance. I think a lot of my members do anyway. Maybe that's the tribe that I've attracted. So this is your chance now to kind of get to know the ladies that we've got joining us today. So perhaps I can open with you, Sarah. Where do we start? Because we just finished. Where do we start with? Why do we need a freelance PR or a journal or someone helping us? What are the benefits?
I guess the benefits for many business owners is it's knowing your zone of genius, because obviously it's great for you to share your story, but if you're running your own business, you're going to be doing every other thing as well. So I guess what I'm trying to say very inarticulately is, if you hand it over to someone like myself or Rachel, we can basically take that away and manage that opportunity for you. We've also got 25, 27 years of experience of working with journalists. So we know the media landscape, we understand how they work, because you can go into groups and kind of pitch yourself out and get that one story. But I guess the thing that is most important is actually creating a narrative around your business or your brand. So it's great getting one piece of coverage in the Daily Mail about what you did and how you got there, but what do you do next? It's kind of building. For me, it's PR is a long game, and you need to be kind of doing it quite regularly, and a freelancer can help you do that without you worrying that you're dropping a ball, for example. And so articulate.
No, it's perfect. And I absolutely agree with that. And we've now set our membership, so it's a minimum 12 months that you're with us, because we want to build the relationships, and all the ladies that we've got here are in that zone, and we are committed, and we do know it's consistency and getting the story out there, because we're so busy as small business owners, aren't we, that we could so easily overlook our marketing and our PR, because there's always something else that needs doing. But we're here today to focus on sharing the stories and get them out there. Jane, what would you say in terms of the benefits, how you've helped kind of people? What would you say? Because typically our members are small business owners, they've got great stories, but yes, they want that ongoing PR. So how can you help, or what's the benefits?
I think adding on from what Sarah said, for me, I think the benefits that I can give my clients is that looking at the long, well, as you know, the long game, the goals, more importantly, and how we're going to achieve those goals. I think it's all very well getting, you know, kind of a scattergun approach and getting this one story here, one story there, but I think you've got to go back to basics. So, you know, why are you doing this? What are you hoping to achieve? You know, what have you got to say? You know, it's important actually that you've got to, you know, at least 2 or 3 stories that you can hopefully run with, or ideas, you know, products being launched or services, or you've got a good backstory as a founder. So I think it's having all of those in place, and then, you know, looking at your goals. You know, what is it you want to achieve? Do you want to win new business? Do you want to get some investment? And I think it's looking at each of those goals, and then we can work backwards to how we can achieve those. So, I mean, I would start, you know, looking at that plan, creating that strategy, looking at your key messages and making sure that they resonate. You know, each story needs to contain some of those same messages. So you've got consistent, clear messaging getting out about your brand. I think that's really crucial. And it, as you say, it's the long game. I mean, it's not magic. It's not always magic. It does take a little time to get the results through, to get them, to get your story out in the right media, your target media, and which of course you need to identify as well. Make sure you're actually being seen in the right places where your target audience is going to be. So there are lots of elements to consider here, which is, you know, I think, you know, having a focused PR strategy and moving on from that with all these elements, with your messaging and your focus, what are your goals, and getting all that in place is really crucial.
No, absolutely. Oh, we lost you a little bit there. No, that's really good. I think one of the things, just so you know as well, Sarah and Jane, because you may not know how Media Matchmaker works, most of our members also have access to their own media database, which is great. So they can build their own list, they can send out the press release, but they need the help with the writing. They need the help with the strategy sometimes. And we have our PR Hour lives at the beginning of the month, and we come up with the ideas, but sometimes they still need, they might just be ready and at that stage where they can hand it over to somebody else, which is fantastic. Okay, so some just quick tips now, and what I'd love to do as well to let you know is share maybe a story with us, how you've helped a business, both of you, you know, and what PR success you've had, so we can give real examples, because I think it's always great. And guys, for our members that are here, any questions you want to ask, that, you know, please, you know, put your hand up if you've got the question ready to ask. Otherwise, I'll keep asking questions as we go along, or I'll introduce you as well. We'll just mix it up and see how it goes. But what would you say we need to ask you? Because when we're looking for a PR agency, because we don't know if you're any good. So should we kind of be able to see examples? Should we ask what your rate is? I mean, we don't need to discuss rates here today. You can have that conversation one-on-one when you speak to people. But what are the questions we need to ask? How can we see that you've made it? Because I've heard stories, and PRs do a great job, but I've also heard so many of my members say, I spent a fortune and I got nothing back for it. So Sarah, what do we ask? What should we ask for? Whether they're working with you or somebody else, can you just share your wisdom?
I think I'm just going to take that thread where you say I got nothing back. I think the thing that I like to teach, because when I engage with the client, we become a partnership. It's kind of, you've got the expertise and the knowledge, and I can help you get to the right places. So I like to kind of work together, as opposed to I'm the person doing the work for you, Mr. Client. It's kind of, we're together, we're a unit. And I think, first of all, that's important kind of when you're engaging with a client, but also, like you were saying, it's like, I got nothing. So it's actually the first thing I would always do with a client is say, okay, what's your expectation here? What is it you want to achieve? What does success look like to you? Is it, I want to be in the Daily Mail? Is it, I want to just get some regular coverage? Is it, I want to be seen in communities talking like this? I think that for me is the big question we need to ask ourselves when we embark on any field. Like, why are you doing this? Why do you want to engage with a freelancer? And then we start on a very even kind of, okay, this is where we're going to start with, and this is what our goal is for this 3-month program, whatever it may be. So freelancers can work, we can work in, well, I work in very different ways, and I I offer kind of one-offs. So for example, if you're launching a product, I work a lot with authors that are either self-published or have been published by big publishing houses, and they just want a bit of a injection around their books. So what I do is I create a press release. We have a 30-minute strategy, and then the goal is to try and get at least 3 to 5 opportunities. And notice I said opportunities, it's doors opening, not necessarily coverage. So it's all about the opportunity around talking about that particular product. And I've had some real success. I've worked with a Hay House author who's actually based in Australia. And we've actually, we're building her, slowly but surely building her journey. She wanted to get her book out there because unfortunately, due to COVID, it published in March 2020, and obviously everything went off a cliff a little bit. So, yeah, and that's a book that's 2 years old, and some PRs would have turned around and said no thank you, but it's a great story. I think it's got potential. So we're now working very closely to get her out there. She's doing regular speaking gigs. She's appeared in Soul and Spirit magazine, Spirit and Destiny, because that's her space. And we're working very closely with those types of titles to kind of build her brand and ultimately sell her book. And I've been really clear with her at the outset. It's like PR doesn't result in sales, but it can help because you're making people aware of you at the outset. So
that's a good. Sorry to interject. Have you ever had a client, Sarah, or maybe you, Jane, as well, that's come to you and you've just said, I just can't help you. I can't find the story. It's not my expertise. Jane, has that ever happened to you? And would you do that? And do you think PR should do that?
I haven't had a client come to me and experience that, but I think that there could definitely be cases where a client may not be ready for PR. They need to I think be in the right mindset for it. I think also have, as Sarah was saying, being having the same expectations as well. I think being honest about the expectations and what they want to achieve and whether that's actually reasonable. I think there needs to be some sort of a good backstory to, if you want to get successful PR, I think it's based on, good founder backstory, some products or services coming into, we've got on the table, new things happening, new developments, maybe appointments, things happening that you can promote. You can do thought leadership if you've got opinions, if you've got good opinions on things that are different to everybody else's, or you can grow a story that's already out there. I also do newsjacking as well, so jumping on the back of stories with an opinion, so that sort of thing. But yeah, I can imagine there may be some companies that maybe don't have that. I haven't met one yet though.
That's the difference. And remember, guys,
I did have
to go through. Sorry, Sarah, what were you saying?
I was just saying I did actually have an experience where I took on the client thinking that I could support them, and actually, you'll laugh now, but it was a hand sanitizer client. And it was at the beginning of the pandemic, and I thought, this is okay, this is in alignment. And it was like tumbleweed because obviously the market was completely fluctuated. And I did a bit of work on them and just said, look, I'm really sorry, I can't support you, it's not going to work, you're going to have to find somebody else. So you do have to have, but because I thought I could sell the product, but ultimately it, pandemic and everything, I think it was a unique situation. So
that's nice to hear, because sometimes you've just got to be honest with people, haven't you? Hopefully they've got a story and they've got ongoing, they can position themselves as an expert. Guys, I'm going to come to you shortly, Janet, Jackie, Eshrin and Hilary, to kind of ask you how you might see yourself working with a freelancer, or if you felt a freelancer could help you, by maybe sharing what it is you do already or where you're at, and then they can see whether it's the kind of thing that they could help you with. One of the things I want to ask you is, where do you stand on two things I want to ask you guys? Pitching, do you pitch in? Because obviously our members have access to a media database, so they can send out and distribute their own press releases, they can build their own lists, but sometimes they're just frightened of actually picking up the phone. And as you guys, as a kind of journalist freelancer, PR, however your guys is, hopefully you've got some relationships, or is that the type of service that you offer as well? Is that normal, Jane, to do that, to actually pick up the phone and pitch in or speak to your connections? How does that work?
Yeah, I would say no, I do pick up the phone, but I have to say it's so much rarer now these days. I mean, everything's gone digital, as you know, and most journalists appreciate emails. They don't like being phoned. There are very, very few occasionally who you might phone, but it's mainly gone the way of emails. And I have to say, it is the art of perfecting the right pitch with the right subject header to get the attention of those journalists. So yeah, I have to say, I think PR is harder these days than it ever was.
Well, there's so many outlets now, isn't there, to try? There's so many people now. There's so many ways that members can get hold of the journalist contact details. So you're right, it's getting the headline completely right. I agree. Sarah, do you ever do the old-fashioned thing? See, I found great success with this, and I encourage my members to do it. And we've had journalists that say, yeah, okay, as long as you get to the point and it's either timely or newsjack, like you say, you're riding off the back of a story, or it's relevant, they were happy to have the email ready. Do you ever do that, Sarah?
I do, and it's definitely dependent on, without being ageist, it's definitely a certain age of journalists will pick up the phone to you. I feel like the younger journalists are much more on Twitter, happy with emails. I actually do believe there's quite a lot of introverted journalists that don't like to speak to people. But I picked up the phone and I spoke to a freelancer the other day, and that's the interesting thing, is I think a lot of the freelancers that are working for multiple publications are much more inclined to sit and have a chat with you about different features. So I actually like to work with freelancers because they have a similar net of connections. I phoned a journalist the other day and she was like, you could tell it was like, oh, someone's actually phoning me. But yeah, it's definitely about the email pitch, the title, and I also believe it's a bit about the follow-up as well. I always give myself a rule of 3, and if I haven't heard back or they haven't responded, then it's like we'll just leave it, because I think that's another thing, you can get a little bit attached to kind of, I've sent this pitch, they've not replied, and then you snarl up their email even more. So I kind of give it if it's on Twitter or if it's come through a response source or whatever, I've pitched direct, I just like give it a couple of nudges and then leave it to see if it lands. Because what we also find is journalists will file your email in that person can talk about that and I'll come back to that later, but they don't always tell you that that's what they're doing. So you get this surprise 6 months later when they say, oh, you sent me this email. So I do think, don't be disheartened if you are pitching out, because
absolutely.
I've got a great example of that, actually. I did some work, it was for a psychologist, actually, which is not normally something it's not normally the genre that I work in, sector I work in. But anyway, I did some work for this psychologist, and he very interesting guy, and I did a press release and I sent it out everywhere. Didn't really get much at the time, and then 6 months later he pops up on Radio 4, and he was on this half-hour documentary, and it was due to the BBC keeping hold of the press release I've got, plugging in their details into their media, their contacts database, and he got approached as a result of this. So I was thrilled about it, but obviously I was no longer working with him at the time. But it's funny how these things do happen. Sometimes there can be quite a long lead time. I've just had something this morning with a journalist who has liked something I've sent them and said, it's not actually appropriate at the moment, but I really like this case study you've sent me, which was to do with the cost of living. And so I'm going to keep that and I'll try and weave it in, later on in another story. So that's great. But, sometimes it's just not instant.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we've had so many journalists exactly like you guys and freelancers that have said before, what they'll tend to do is they'll keep their inbox, they can search by it, or they'll use a database, and then they'll come back to the story when it's relevant or timely. Before we move on to the members, the other question I wanted to ask, where do you sit with, I've seen this advertised quite a lot now, people say we'll guarantee that we'll feature you in Forbes, or we'll get this, and it's paid for PR.
God.
So Sarah, come on, share this with me, because I know how I feel about it. So perhaps you could share with me how you feel, and then come on to you, Jane. Sarah first.
The pay for play stuff or Forbes? Which one are we talking about?
Both. Let's cover both.
I guess this is another question I bounce back to clients. It's like, why do you want to be in Forbes? Really? Like, is it because your mate's in Forbes? It's kind of just, I just like to put that back to the client and say, you know, being in Forbes is not the be and end all. People are not necessarily going to buy from you because your people that are buying from you are probably not reading Forbes. It's more likely your peers are in Forbes. So it kind of goes back to a point that Jane was saying earlier. We kind of need to know who the audience is and why you're doing it. So if you're selling something specific, for example, I have a psychic medium is one of my clients. I know for a fact that Forbes, there's just no point. I know that Fate and Fortune is her audience. I know the women that read that magazine would love her. So that is where I'm focusing my efforts. So that's kind of answers the Forbes piece. I just think, you know, just think about exactly who it is you're trying to reach and what they are reading, not where you want to go. Kind of, that is kind of that thing. But with regards to pay for play, I don't know. I think sometimes it's a good idea, sometimes it's not. I mean, there is magazines like Brains magazines. They do like you can pay a certain amount of money and you can get regular columns. And that's great if you're a bit of an introvert and you want to kind of get into the practice of sharing stories and you're in control of those stories. That's a really good way to start out, I think. But ultimately, I would just question every single one of those and just see if it feels right to you, which is bit wishy-washy, but I'm all about like listening to my body about whether it's a good fit or not. So
I don't feel it's necessary, really. My personal opinion is on it that, you know, people shouldn't have to pay to, you know, you're giving great content, you're sharing great value, you have a relevant story to the relevant audience, shouldn't be having to pay for an avatar. It's advertising, really, isn't it? However you wrap it up, you know. So what about you, Jane?
10 grand for Forbes is ridiculous.
Yes. Yes.
No, I agree. And I think, you know, if you're hiring a PR freelancer or agency, you know, there shouldn't be a need to do pay for play anyway. Also, I think some of these pay for play publications, and when I've worked for corporates, and you know, we've been approached by magazines saying, you know, offering, you know, pay for play. You know, you've got to question that type of magazine as well, because clearly their readership is or rather their sales are actually based on their advertising revenue and not actually people paying to read that magazine. So actually, is that helping? No, it's not.
Yeah, and I think this comes back to, you know, PR isn't about ego, is it? It's about, you know, maybe it's good to start raising awareness and get you onto that journey.
Yeah.
Genuine audiences that match the services that you can offer. So I'm going to come to Jackie. I'm going to come to you first because you sent me your success yesterday. Thank you very much. So have you considered, or would you consider working with a freelancer? But tell us before you do that, what it is you do so the ladies know, and also your success with Solent. You're now a regular contributor, I hear.
Yes. Yes. So I have recently stepped away from a little bit of side work I was doing sort of to start my new businesses, and I'm up and running about a year now. So I've got Select Events and Select Connections, and Select Events is events for singles over 50, and Select Connections is a bespoke introduction agency for singles over 50 in their 60s and in their 70s, as I like to say, because you can't put them all in the one box because all 3 decades are very, very different to deal with. So I think I've got quite a good backstory because I launched everything off the back of becoming single myself at 54, being through you know, a couple of, well, I've been married up until my 40s and I have 3 children. One you would have seen just flew past there.
Didn't see.
She flew in with just a t-shirt on her. It's prom day today. She's my youngest. And she came flying. She said, "Had you got your camera on there?" So I've like taken this big step forward on my own to launch these businesses. The events I run, I tend to run one a month. And for example, I had a treasure hunt in the V&A for my singles. I had a wine tasting and charcuterie evening for them last month. This month, I'm running so I also support them in a way. I give free support and guidance to anyone who's found themselves single after, you know, bereavement, or just suddenly, you know, their partner turns around and says, look, I've had enough now, and you know, we've got like 10 or 20 good years left and I need to move in my own direction, and they don't know what to do with their life. So we offer them a 6-step recovery process, and we spend time with them, myself and my coach, and so I'm putting in that sort of generosity funnel type thing for them, and hopefully getting some business out of that. But also I have access to Rachel's database, but because when you know, I'm on with Rachel, I'm making notes and everything, and I know where I'm going, and then suddenly when I get time to get onto the database, I just have a blank, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I just don't know, you know, what I'm doing here, or and then because your mind is so many other places, and you know, you have so many good stories, and I write a lot of stuff. My blogs all relate, and I'm very hard hitting on my blogs and straightforward, you know, about everything to do. And my latest one went out the other day, and it was called The Challenges and Bravery of Those Who Come Out as Gay or Transition to Their True Gender Identity Later in Life. Because I've had people that have come to me, and one particularly the other day, I haven't put this out on my blog yet, that she's 48 years old. She has tried, she's got a kid, everything, and she thinks that, you know, she may be gay, and she wants to ponder in that market, but she doesn't know how to. Literally, she addressed everything that I'd written in this article, and I said, have you seen this? And I sent it to her, and she was quite shocked. She said, I can't believe you've
Sorry, Jackie, did you then send that out through the database? Because obviously, in terms of working with so you did, and obviously did that get picked up then?
Nothing, because I made it back. I said, this week we've seen Dame Kelly Holmes come out at the age of 52. And I also said, currently the ITV soap Emmerdale is running a storyline about Mary, who recently came out in her 70s. So I've gone through that storyline when someone told me about it, and I've broken it all down, and I've broken that all down. But there's something I haven't put right, and I haven't got any traction on it.
Sorry, when you say you haven't got any traction on it, where have you put it out to?
All my contact tags on the database.
So that's probably the relationship coaches for the national newspapers, maybe lifestyle editors, that kind of thing. Online blogs as well, you've got, haven't you? So they can set the database however they want as well. Radio producers to talk about it from a radio point of view, with debate from the BBC. I think we put Talk and LBC in.
I did send it straight to BBC Solent as well, because I have obviously I've been on there, so I got a relationship with them now as this over 50. So I go on this 10:30 show every now and again with Pat Sissons, and we talk about the over 50s single and all that there, and we have a good laugh about, you know, about what's happening. The last one was about the condoms in the seed packets in the garden centres. So I sent that through, you know, because the highest STD rates in the over 65s at the minute, you know, so because they're not taking any precautions because they don't think they have to, because they can't get pregnant. So stuff like that. But I think that I think that I need handheld, but at this minute in my journey as a business, I can't afford it. So I'm between a rock and a hard place.
I think, Jackie, this is you've been really honest and open. You've had some great success. You really have, since you came on, and you've done, you know, nationals, you've done radio, you've got online blogs, you've now got this regular thing. But it is about why you're here, to see how could a freelancer help you, perhaps give you the strategy or the guidance, or maybe tweak. So Sarah and Jane, is this the kind of thing you could help with? And if so, how would you see that working? Because sometimes they just need a bit of guidance, maybe even the headline, you know, they can send it out or distribute, or even looking at their media list. Is that the kind of things, Jane, you're nodding away, is that the kind of thing you can help with?
Yes, yeah, it is actually. I do offer like a PR power hour, if I can say it properly, PR power hour. And that gives you, so an hour of my time where we can talk through any, potential stories that you've got. Let's, focus on one and go through how we can promote it. And I can give you lots of ideas about how to pitch it, how to, maybe create case studies in this case. And some ideas of who to pitch it to, and I can possibly even give you some contacts as well. Not that I want to compete with Media Matchmaker.
Great, that's why you're here, guys, because you want to be able to offer all solutions. It's about opening up to make my members successful, however we get there. And it's
exactly.
Sarah, how about you? Is that the kind of thing? Because
I'm already sitting here going, I'm already sitting there going, you've got an amazing story, by the way, and congratulations. But I'm sort of sitting here thinking, okay, I could connect you to that person and that person. She'd run that and she'd probably be interested. But I think that, similar to Jane, what I do is I do like a PR kind of power pitching kind of project. So we would have half an hour together. We would ascertain the story that we want to pitch out, and I would do it for you for 6 weeks, and we'd see how we get on. And that's kind of an entry level, kind of gets you started, or maybe breaks the seal, if you like, because sometimes that's all you need is that one story to get you moving. So that's something that I offer. And I'm also open to just chatting. To be honest, I'm happy to help, whatever. So,
and then the thing is, you build those relationships, don't you? Janetta, I'm going to come to you next, if you don't mind. Perhaps you can share your experience, because you've got you've all got, guys, you've got amazing stories, amazing businesses. Janetta, you've worked with a freelancer through Media Matchmaker, and it worked extremely well. And I know she's at the point where she's got so much business now she can't cope with anymore. She's doing extremely well. How was your experience working with a freelancer, Janetta? And how extra did it help you? And is it something you consider moving forward? You're on, yeah.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Shall I just quickly share the story first?
Yes, please do.
So I was a motivational speaker and motivational trainer, and was looking for some way to empower people more authentically. And at the time that I was questioning it all, my 16-year-old daughter Jenny and I had an argument one day, and she took herself off and committed suicide in her bedroom, in her bathroom, in actual fact. And I found her, and my whole life went to ground zero in that moment. Everything went to ground zero. And the journey of getting through that, I nearly ended my life 3 times because I just couldn't see any way to get forward and past that. And then I realized I had forgotten I still had choice. I didn't have to have that label for the rest of my life. And so started studying and researching and walking the walk to get myself through to be able to sit here and talk this story now from a very appreciative and accepting open heart. And I did, and I've now been able to help people all over the world, from people in terrorist attacks to people self-harming, not getting out of bed, and even people with day-to-day challenges, being able to communicate clearly with each other without the distraction of past things that distort the way we express and listen. And then on top of that, with this successful process, and it's been amazing, we realized that Jenny had died on World Mental Health Day on the 10th of October. So we now have World Jenny's Day every 10th of October. That was birthed through this very special lady here, Rachel, who said, why not a Jenny's Day? And we use theatre and the arts to normalize conversations around depression, suicide, and their solutions. And also to celebrate mental health wellness, because that whole industry, and it is an industry, is treated like everybody's broken if they're like that. And it's actually very human. And the more it can be humanized and normalized, the more people are going to be able to move through and realize, actually, this is life, and balance it out. So yeah, we're coming up to the third World Jenny's Day. We use the Epiphany process to back up and support on the solution side. And this year it's being showcased internationally on USA Global TV, with which I am a co-host on several programs of theirs. And we're holding it there. So that's it in a nutshell.
And it's brilliant. And you worked with a freelancer, didn't you? How was that experience for you last year?
Yeah, it was amazing because, you know, just like Jackie was saying, you know, when you're juggling so much, I'm not good at sitting and writing copy without my inner critic going absolutely, you know. And so the very first year I used the Media Matchmaker database, but I didn't know what headings to do. And I tended to over sensationalize them. And I got nothing back, and it shut me down. I went, I can't do this. I'm not the PR fundy. I'm the person that can do what I do so well. So Amanda was able to take a lot. I mean, we ended up last year, I was on ITV News, and the story was written, and it was in 3 magazines. It was in New, OK, and what was the other one? Oh, it was in the Express, wasn't it?
It was the Nationals, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it was, I can't do that stuff without my critic telling me that it's a waste of space. So I've accepted that. I do write well, but it takes me too long. And also because it's my very personal story, I want somebody else to be able to present it out there. And in fact, I've now got somebody in the States doing Australia and the States. And some pretty impressive things are coming forward. In fact, that's how I got this award this last month. But I need somebody that really understands what's this about, and to get it there.
Thank you, Janetta. That's the thing. And Jane, I muted you just because it was pinging through, so you were coming up. So if you can unmute yourself. In terms of your help from a freelance point of view, is that the sort? See, a lot of our members have got great personal stories, but then they need ongoing support to come up with the headlines and everything. We can do that, and we show that, but sometimes they then just need still someone to write the articles. How does that resonate with you, Jane and Sarah? Whoever wants to go first is fine.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'm sitting listening to the stories and just thinking, oh my God, I can help you so much, because it's that you've started with this amazing story, but there, like you say, there's so many other steps. You can keep telling that story in different ways with different magazines. I mean, I'm very sorry for your loss, by the way, and thank you for sharing that story. I really felt that. But I think also, you know, having someone who understands the story and and can see it from the media's perspective as well. It's having that other pair of eyes. It's having that reliable pair of hands to make those connections for you. So like you say, you don't have to think about it. You just know it's being managed, but you're also working with someone who understands the story and understands where you want to go with it, I think is the most important thing. And you know, you can work with freelancers on a one-off project, or you can, I imagine that Jane as well, I like to journey with clients for at least a year if I can, to really maximize that story and start to really tell the story in the best way possible.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, like Sarah, I'm awfully sorry. It's just, thank you for sharing that as well. It's, but it does seem like an amazing transformational experience as well for you. And I think there's a lot of potential in terms of stories there. I mean, obviously the suicide part of it, where you can, you know, be a very good speaker about that experience and how you turned it around. I think the way that you've obviously brought that into your life, and that is now how you help other people. I think there is so much, as Sarah said, I think there's so much potential there. You know, do you do conferences? Because I think conferences would be a great way of you know, speaking at the right conferences, obviously, but again, this could also raise your profile a bit, and you're going to do media off the back of that.
I like that, Jane. I'm very happy to do conferences. I want to be able to get out there and speak more and more. So absolutely, conferences would be perfect. The other thing I haven't also mentioned is, well, Jenny's Day is the charity arm to the Epiphany process. And also we've got a theatrical production that we put on 4 years ago that we want to franchise internationally using contemporary dance, voiceovers, song, visuals. It's a 2-act show that was, it's had such an effect because it's helped people who don't understand people who are feeling compromised. It's helped the people feeling compromised going, that's it, you've captured it through the arts. I really think it's the next step. So that's the other charity arm of the Epiphany process.
Well, would that go out to schools or theatres, or where would you?
Well, very happy to get it out to schools as well, because I can own, the more it gets out there, but we do want it to go on theatrical circuits worldwide as a franchise, so that message gets out there. People were coming out from the production having conversations about their challenges as though they were talking about who they met for coffee last week. It just normalizes it all.
They're all powerful, amazing stories. I think the best thing to do on this chat as well is, obviously you can private message your details to each other if you think it's something someone you resonate with, or the story, vice versa. You know, that's what we're all here for. I want to just quickly chat to you, Hilary, as well, and also to Janet and Sharon as Sharon. I always get it wrong, as a team, because you guys, Janet and Sharon, they're in the same company. They're getting success, ongoing success, more B2B trade, from a beauty point of view. Janet, have you worked with freelancers? Is this something you would consider doing as part of your company? What's your thoughts?
So yes, we have worked with freelancers, and it hasn't worked for us, but I say that, but then I know that there's no such thing as guaranteed PR to start with. The other thing is, when we did work with a freelancer, it might not have been the right time of the year. So we worked with a freelancer at the end of last year. So it was last 3 months of last year. And so it's leading up to Christmas. So obviously the focus is not on people like us, it's on Christmas and gifting and that side of things. So I can see why it might not have worked. I think it's different when you are a B2B business. I know we all actually here, well, not all, we are service-led business. So we are service-led business in that our focus is on helping our clients to really achieve success. So we help our clients to develop and launch brands in the beauty industry. So it's all about their products. It's also sometimes about their personal brand. So we have previously worked with a client where we developed a brand for them. And actually the brand was based on them, really, because they were a trichologist. And we developed a supplement brand that helped people who were losing their hair. So we worked with her, and we worked together with a freelance PR lady who was part of our team. And we achieved lots of success for her. So we won 12 awards in a year. We got plenty of coverage for her, but she came across really well. So, and it was based on her personal story as well, because she suffered with hair loss, and that's why the brand was developed. So we've achieved success for people through PR. We haven't necessarily had that same success, but then the way we do achieve success in PR is I do write on behalf of publications and I speak at events. So, and that does actually draw in clients. So it does actually turn into sales.
So you've become the thought leader, haven't you? Which is one of the ladies said earlier on at the beginning. And that's the way you position yourself. So you look like you want to say something. Were you gonna?
No, I was just clapping that you're becoming a thought leader.
Yes, yeah, and that's and that's the road that's doing really well for you, isn't it, from that point of view? And as Sharon is obviously writing the articles as well, and doing the media lists and pitching in, and that seems to be working okay with you. But you can see, so it has worked for you in the past using freelancers with a specific campaign in mind, potentially.
Yeah. I think it's difficult for us to use a freelancer to promote us. And I think the only way to really promote us is through showing up as a thought leader. So because and that does help, because then it actually positions us in the right way. So we, as a result of that, I think the business that we have won has been based on that.
Yeah,
so it does separate us from our competitors.
Any comments on that, ladies?
Yeah, I was to say I totally agree with Janet. Actually, I mean, if I was kind of, if I was dealing with you, I would say that is the way to go. So thought leadership through you speaking in industry publications, and also using your customers as case studies to get your message across. I think they're the two key ways. I mean, you may occasionally get some other PR, but I think in the sort of business that you're in, that would make the most sense, what you're doing. I'm currently working with it's a hybrid office company. So they've set up these hybrid offices in London, and the whole hybrid working, flexible working thing's really taken off. But there's actually, I mean, it's almost as Sarah was saying earlier about the hand sanitizer. There's so much flexible working, stuff going on in the media that it is slightly difficult to get traction. But I've got one really good case study, which is, creating a lot of interest. And this company has saved £100,000 through co-sharing an office, and they're passing on 5% of their savings to their employees. So they're getting like £100 extra or so, or more than that, in their pay packets each week now. So it's it's using, I think sometimes it can be that the sort of job that you're doing, the company that you've got, you may find that case studies through your customers may be the way forwards.
Absolutely. And that's what we're doing moving forward as well. So we just started working with a new client, which is, she was on The Apprentice, and so her name's Amy, and she's got a brand called Hollywood Browser. So what we're doing now is, instead of, some of what we're doing is obviously talking about the trends in the marketplace, what's happening, insights, but then it's also around the clients and the success we're achieving for the clients that we work with as well.
Brilliant, fantastic. So Hilary, what about yourself? Because you're relatively on your start of your journey. Is this something you would consider from a free, working with someone? How any questions that you might have?
I've got to go in a few minutes because I've got another call at 11, so I'll be brief. I'm not sure whether this is the right time to be working with somebody or not. I've had some success getting articles and making contact with journalists. So I think the consistency and just keeping going with it, I think, is going to be the important thing.
Fantastic, and I would love to hear about that. Hopefully you can join us on the PR Hour Live next Thursday.
Yes, I will do that. Yes,
share those. And yes. I think that's it. It's about being here for the right people that are ready, that have the budgets that they can allocate. Some are at the start of their PR journey or their businesses, and so it is a balance. But also, it's a chicken and egg, isn't it, you guys, you ladies? I'm sure you hear this all the time. But if you use our service, we can get to where you want to be. I think one of the things I always share with my members is, and they hear me say this, it's about the end in mind. So in essence, Sarah and Jane, we've still got to turn this into pounds, shillings and pence in some way. It's got to benefit our business, so we have to commercialize it. What are your thoughts from making it profitable, PR profitable, Sarah?
So my goal with regards to that is actually utilize it. It's not just about PR for me, it's about working with the client's whole awareness mix, if you like. So it is pulling in, what are you how are you amplifying your PR on social media? How are you showing up in communities to talk about your products? How are you, if you have a product you can share for review, are you sending them out so that they get featured and get talked about? It's kind of, I feel like you have to invest to then reap the benefits. For example, I had an opportunity with a lady who, again, she's self-published. I just happened to connect the dots at the right time. She did a piece in the Daily Mail, which is obviously one of the widest read publications in the UK. It was a full page piece on her and her daughter, and it was about the book that she'd written. And as a result of that one piece, she sold 70 books. So it can happen. But we have to be patient, and I guess for me, I always use that case study. It does work. It's just, being open to that, and, and it will happen. And eventually that person went on the telly, and again, another tranche of sales. But ultimately she was doing lots of other things as well as PR. It wasn't just based on.
It all comes together. It's holistic. It's part of your marketing, isn't it? It's part of the bigger picture, and that's the way you work. But ultimately, whatever we're doing, we have to turn it into a return on investment. Jane, what are your thoughts perhaps on that?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, so I think it goes all back to your, having a clear PR strategy. What are your goals? Working backwards to achieve those goals, your various tactics, which, might be media relations, including press releases, opinion pieces, thought leadership, conference speaking, social media, tweet ups, all sorts of ways of leveraging your messaging and getting results. So I think there's one kind of specific way. It's an amalgamation and integration of all these key things that you need to get on the same plane, and work them all together. And it's leveraging that, as Sarah was saying, on social media. I mean, every piece of article you get, stick it out on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere, Instagram, your reels and things like that. So there are so many ways, I think, of getting all your messaging across. And thinking about campaigns and examples of success, I just wanted to mention this one actually, which I worked with, this construction company who really wanted to get a port job, win some more port work, and they wanted to showcase their port construction engineering expertise. And I did a campaign for them, and the president, about a year later, I picked up the phone, the potential client on the phone, and said, "Hey, I've seen all your amazing coverage on Google, through Google, and you're obviously a real port expert," and words to that effect. But they offered him a new job in Louisiana, in the US, a new port job. So sometimes these things do take time to build up. I have to say again, sometimes it's just not instant. You will get instant successes, you will get quick wins, but sometimes the long game can ultimately be more successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we've done this session because I know, and I've seen, and I've had it myself, working with a freelancer. You have a one-on-one experience, you build that relationship, they care about your business. And if you're in that situation where you can work with someone, then that's great. I mean, you may love the writing, you can pitch it yourself, that's absolutely perfectly fine. But if you're watching this or you're here today, it's for a reason, because you may want to outsource it or just have someone's expertise. These ladies here have all these years. All of us are getting, we've got our credentials, we've got years of expertise, and that's what they're here for. And I think, if you feel that you've resonated with, Jane and Sarah that's been with us today, feel free, please, to connect to them. Their details will be there, so you can fill out a web form, connect to them, and just have a conversation. They're both willing, I think, to have an initial conversation. They might ask you some questions about where you're at or something, but how should they contact you, Sarah? I mean, we'll put the web form through, but and Jane, do you tend to do a quick call? Do you send over a brief? How does it work if they want to get in touch, Sarah?
I'm all about the chemistry with the client, so just drop me an email, we'll arrange a virtual coffee, and we'll just go from there. Really, it's as easy as that. So
brilliant. Jane, what about yourself?
Yeah, no, same here. Yes, drop me an email and we can arrange a chat and talk through.
Fantastic. Well, we'll put all the details in. Thanks, guys. Any final questions from our members that you want to ask? We've got 1 minute left or anything. Everyone's going to go quiet. Well, listen, ladies, thank you so much to Jane and Sarah for your time today. Really, really do appreciate it, and for your expertise and your knowledge. And I think hopefully you can see it's been great to get to know you guys. And also I think you can see that we've got some beautiful members with some amazing stories that hopefully that you can help in the future, whether it's from here on the live or they catch up on the replay. Don't forget our next events. We have the live PR Hour Live, the first Thursday of the month, where you can come and ask your questions. We help you with the strategy, we help put it together. And Jane and Sarah, if you ever want to join me on something like that, you're more than welcome to. We can chat about that. Then we have training at the end of the the month. The training always has a purpose. So today was all about working with freelancers. I think next month is all about how to optimize and start using SEO as part of your press releases and your stories that you're getting out there. So thank you to everybody. I do appreciate it. If you want to stay, I'm going to stop recording now. You're more than welcome to stay on if you've got any further questions. Yeah, and thank you again.